Hi, I'm Miriam Joy and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be doing the Miriam Joy Wax Technique jewelry line, and we're going to do a bunch of different videos for you on different pieces because they all kind of have little techniques. But before we get started on the piece we're working on today, we want to go over some of the tools and how we get the gourd piece ready. So that's kind of important. This that I'm working on is a 2-inch gourd round, and we get these by using our circle drill, and these just simply hook into your drill. You just set them right in there like that. Now you can position this bit so that it's not in the way, but it's harder to control. So if you're using the bit and you want to leave the drill in the middle, that's fine. And then what I do is I simply fill it in with quick wood and sand it out. Now the slower you take these, the smoother your pieces are going to be. So my suggestion is just take it nice and slow. If you have a drill press, it's easier. You just hook this into the drill press and take the drill press down nice and easy. You want thicker pieces. You don't want something that's really, really thin. It needs to be wide enough that we can put a strip of leather or whatever you want to put on the sides. There's all kinds of different ways to finish it, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part. But I do them with thicker pieces, and then I take them and I have a let's see, what is this called? A sanding tabletop sander. It's a belt sander, and I just smooth my edges down, and I've done them by hand too. It's not a big deal. You can do the sizes by hand if you want to make sure that they're nice and perfectly round. And then I take the bottom of it and I just sand it like this. Now because they're thicker, I get that nice smooth finish. You can sand the top if you have little blemishes or anything like that. And if you have a little hole or two, don't forget you can fill that in with your quick wood as well. It doesn't take that much. But other than that, these do not have to be sanded. You do not want them sealed. You want them nice and natural. You don't want anything underneath. We're not going to be working with any dyes or anything other than just our Crayola crayon for our color. We will be adding some of that. Now to make this easier for you, we do have the different sizes available on the website. This is a 2.5-inch round, and what I work most commonly with is the 2-inch. I have a 1.5, which is a nice little necklace size, or also the 1.25, and this makes great earrings. I don't want my earrings so small that I can't work with them, so we'll be getting some earring kits for you as well. All of these are available on our website as pieces and as kits, and we're going to excuse me, lost my train of thought there. We just want to make sure that we have these available so that you don't have to do the work. You can just buy them and you're ready to go. And a lot of our kits are going to have everything you need in it to do that specific one. So whatever kit you want, you just order it online and it'll have most of your products available in it. So we've talked about how our little pieces are. Oh, I know where my train of thought went. I would not recommend doing a bigger piece than the 2.5. You can try it, but most of them, like I said, I like the 2-inch. The reason is there's only so much room you can control the wax while it's warm. So that's the reason I don't get into the bigger pieces of gourds, and you want to kind of watch them. You don't want them too lumpy or bumpy, because remember, your wax is going to melt into the lower spots. So we want to try and have it as flat as possible. We know that gourds aren't flat, but we try and do our best. Okay, we're going to be using, of course, the Miriam Joy melting pot that has the well in it, so we can put our crayons in here. This technique does take a little bit more crayon than what you're used to working with. And I'm not going to lie to you about this, but the more pots you have, the better the experience is going to be for you, one for each color. Otherwise, you're trying to jump around too much, trying to clean out a melting pot, getting to the next color. So if you have 3 melting pots, you might kind of think about doing a project that has just 3 colors. You can clean it out. It's just going to take you longer, that's all. And you just, the more you have, the more you're going to really love that. And this is addicting. I'm going to warn you up front, it is very addicting. Once you start this, your ideas are just going to go crazy and you're going to start thinking of all these things that you can do. I do use the Miriam Joy tools. When I'm applying the wax on with larger amounts, I use my number 2 tool, which is the biggest of the tools. And then I go into the smaller tools to move things around. So know that they are going to be move around on you a little bit. So you want the smaller tips of the Miriam Joy tools. We use the stipple brushes, and I don't even try to clean these out because they're so reasonably cost, and I try to keep these all reasonable for you. I have one for each color, and this is when we're putting large amounts of color in them, and I'll be showing you different pieces where we're using this tool to make our process go a whole lot faster, and it's kind of to lay the wax kind of more evenly on there. I've also introduced the eyedroppers. Now, we carry these as well. Again, I do the same thing. I try to have one for each color and at a reasonable cost so that you don't have to worry about trying to clean them out or anything. And they have to be glass. You do not want to try and put plastic into your melting pot or your hot wax. You're going to melt it. So we want to make sure that we're using glass eyedroppers. And this, again, is just it's a easier way to get the wax spread out along a longer cross of area. So that's the reason that we have introduced the eyedroppers. I am also going to use the texture brush and inserts in some of the different things I make, and the ones I do that you're really going to like. They're going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you have your texture brush and insert ready for some of these as well. I'm sticking with a lot of these, a 24 box of crayons. Doing these videos or the wax technique is great because you can take out your crayons that you don't use a lot of and just throw them all together and make some wonderful fun stuff. But I'm going to stick with a 24 because that's the most economical, as we know. Don't forget your darker colors. Use your white to lighten them up, especially your blues and your purples so they don't look black, and then you get these real fun colors. Because in this 24 box, we don't really have a lighter purple. And look at the tip, because like this purple here is almost black. I'm also going to be using a lot of the metallic colors, which are a lot of fun. They're really, really just great. They have that sparkle to them, almost like there's glitter in them. And here's a silver that's warmed up just to kind of show you the kind of stuff that you're going to get and how fun they are. I'm not using as much of the glitter because when you heat them up, they kind of get a little bit, I don't know how to explain it, harder. But try them and see if you like it. If not, go back to your metallic colors. I don't recommend doing a whole bunch of metallic colors in one piece because your crayons give it the brightness that you want, and when you're using metallics you kind of lose that brightness and that color. So I do 1 or 2 metallic colors with a piece at the most and stick with my basic crayons. We have all kinds of fun things we can add into our wax as we're working. There's all kinds of glitters and items. I have been using the micro beads. And then one of my favorites is the tinsel glitter. And you have thicker glitter and finer glitter, and there's just all kinds of really neat kinds that is out there. There's also, this is like a leafing, I think they call this like a vintage leafing, but there's just all kinds of things. Think about adding to them, all kinds of scrapbook items that you can use in this, and we'll show you how to melt it into your wax once we get going. One of my favorite things are these little guys though, because when I'm doing this I find I can control it better if I can get my finger in there and I just want to put it on just a little bit and spread it across just with my fingers, and I like these little containers better, and we are going to sell these on our website with the little glitters in them, so you can get exactly what you want and just sprinkle it and get in and out of it with your finger. And that again is the Tencel glitter. So they have all kinds of neat things in them. This one I have some of the Tencel glitter in, and I have some of the micro beads in. But just anywhere where you think that you may need something, we can add a little bit of sparkle. This one has just the real fine silver in it. And then I want to show you on this one we have a little bit of the bigger pieces in it. Just a tad, just enough to set that piece off. But I really think that the glitter really makes or breaks your piece. I think it's a lot of fun. And let's get started, because this is going to be so much fun. I got so excited about getting ready to play, I forgot a couple of the key things that we're using here. So I'm going to go back and just cover a couple other little things. You might have seen these sitting on the table. These are my rubber gloves, and they're also, they call them garden gloves, but you want the ones with the rubber on them. This is kind of a tip I'm going to give you. These make holding onto your gourd so much easier. So if you have a gourd or you're working with a gourd, especially when I'm working with my drill press and I need to hold on to one, I can hold on to it nice and easy, and it doesn't slip around as much. I also use it when I'm working with my pieces to hold on to that are smaller, because they're just that much more secure, or especially when I am sanding on my sander, I can hold on to it with a better grip. So any of the gloves with the rubber work really, really well. No matter what type of gourd work you're doing, those are fun to use. I also have my table covered in a piece of paper. You can get the bigger pieces of paper at your newspaper, the leftover rolls, or at a butcher. A lot of times we'll have the bigger strips of paper. Because we're moving so fast and working so fast, we'll get a lot of wax spread out, so we don't want to do have splatters all over our work area. I also have a black tray, especially right under where I have my heat gun, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Because you're going to have splatters coming off and going different areas, you want to kind of contain that bigger splatter area there. I also have a hook, kind of a shepherd's hook or a plant hanger, and this one happens to hook right onto my table. I found this one at a craft store, but also your garden supplies. And if you happen to be one of the ones that has a rotary tools that has the hanger to hang off of, that would work really, really nicely as well. And I know that there are some vendors out there that do sell those. You might check like Bonnie Gibson's site or some of the others as well. I'm going to be using one of the most important tools today is our heat tool. They're also called embossing tools or heat guns. So if you have any of those three written on it, it's all good. We do now carry this style, and I really like this style because it comes in here at the middle and it's easy to hold. And when I first started doing this process, I would work with this hand and hold with this hand, and it's a little bit harder, so that's why I recommend the stand, but you can do it if you need to do that. So that is a little bit more of our tools that we're going to be using today. Oh, turn that right on. We know that it works. And now let's get playing and have some fun. Alright, this one I call Galaxy, and we're going to be teaching you a lot of fun techniques in this one, and I think it reminds me of kind of the stars and stuff like that, and you can change colors or do whatever you want. You could add the silver in for the stars or white. There's a bunch of things you can do, but we're going to show you the basics, and I'm going to show you also what is in the kit. The colors that we're going to use in this today are, of course, our black. And then we're going to be using red, orange, yellow, green, and dandelion. And I think these kind of show up really, really well. So those are the ones that we're going to do. And we're also going to have some glitter in the kit as well. And we'll work with that in just a minute. I'm going to be working with the 2-inch round circle gourd piece. And I find I'm most comfortable with that because I can control that amount of wax. It's easier. The larger ones start to get a little bit tougher, and I do not recommend going over the 2.5. But we're going to start with our stipple brush, and I've got one warming up in my black. We're going to warm it up so it's nice and pliable, and we're just going to apply the black with a swift stroke here. You see a little bit of remains of silver. That was a metallic silver that was just left in my pot, but that really gives it a neat effect. So you could always do that too if you wanted to. See how nice and smooth that went on? You do not want to go back and work it while it's cold or starting to cool. Once it's cooled all the way down, if you needed to, you can apply a second layer. But at this point in time, we're going to go over and heat it up and apply our glitter as well. So we want to get it nice and smooth is what we're after, just to melt it barely enough where it just all smooths out into one layer. We're going to start on the outside edges, because they take the longest to melt, and we'll work our way in. You see it went from shiny or dull to shiny, and we have it nice and even. So at that point in time, while it's still wet, we're going to use our glitter, and it only takes a little bit of glitter. And if you can, I try to kind of make mine in a swirl or run it through one section. It doesn't, you don't want the whole thing glittered. I just want a little bit of that. Okay. I see some ridges in this still, so I'm going to heat this just a little bit more. And now our ridges are more even. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a couple of techniques. And one of those is heating up our tool. And I'm going to use the red orange. And I'm using my number 2 tool, and I'm putting it into my wax to heat up for just a few seconds. And we're going to heat this back up, and we're going to put a kind of streak through this. Almost looks like a what do they call the thing shooting through space? So you can do things like that, and the smaller you want it, the smaller tool you would use, but it almost looks like a comet or one of those things shooting through space. So you can do that effect, or you can put some swirls in it. I'm going to put one more color in here. I'm going to do the blue-green. Now remember, the wax has to be warm to get into it. And just move that around till where you want it. Now, you can do it that way, and now we're going to kind of show you how to do splatters. Now, the splatters you can do just by themselves. You don't have to do the comet kind of looking streaks in the background, but I think it kind of adds to it. Again, we're going to go to our stipple brush, and I'm going to load it up with wax, and I'm going to flick it on to my wax piece here. I'm going to let this cool down just a little bit. It's on there, but it's so warm that it's absorbing it up. So we're going to let it cool, and you're going to be able to see it better. And then we'll do a couple of other colors as well. I'm going to show you these other pieces that I have done these in. And I put different colors in there, and the more you heat them, the bigger the spots get. So depending on how big you want your spots is how much you heat them. In this one, I put some silver tinsel glitter in as well, just to kind of give it a different look. I really think that the glitter, and it takes so little of the glitter, adds so much to these. So now let's go ahead, that's dry, and we're going to splatter that. See how that really shows up now? And I'm going to splatter that with the yellow, and then we're going to come back in, and I'm going to do some red orange, and then some of my yellow green. In yellow green, you know it's the green looking one, not the green yellow. It's whatever name is in the last part of this. You may want to kind of warm your brushes up, soak them and melt them so that they can move, so you can do your splatters. And I'm going to do the green here. And when you're done with your brushes, your stipple brushes, if you kind of get the wax out, then they're not as hard, but you lose that wax. So I'll leave that up to you if you want to do that or not. Now watch out your drips. That one didn't drip on here, but it could drip on there easily. So I have quite a few on there. You may want less. It just is up to you. So let's melt this and see what this looks like. Again, we're going to start on the outsides. And you can see the spots starting to change. And however big you want the spots, you can melt them. But you really get this neat kind of cosmos looking piece. Now, if you wanted bigger dots, you can even come in and set some of your dots down with your wax tool. And again, I would probably let it dry. Let's see what happens if it's wet. See, it just kind of blends in. So I would let it completely cool, and then just add some little dots to make some bigger ones, and just play with it. Now see, I wanted to kind of show you, if you start to overheat it, it all starts going back to, it's too muddy. It all starts blending together. And I want to show you one where we do take it off. So we're simply, I don't like the way it looks. It's nice and warm. We have a clean canvas, and so we're going to start again. And I'm going to just do just the splatters this time. And going to use my brush. Nice and even. Now you're going to notice that when you heat the gourd up, the gourd piece, that the wax applies even differently. So sometimes you may want to heat that up. You'll see that the wax applies nice and even. I'm not even going to go over here and warm it because it has evened it out on its own. So that's another kind of little trick that I have learned. If you want it flatter or more even, heat up your gourd piece first, then apply your wax, and it's going to just kind of melt in more. Now we're going to get this cool a little bit here, and then we'll start to apply our splatters. And I'm going to do the yellow. And I'm going to try and get into this so I have a little bit bigger splatters. Perfect. Not so much just little fine ones. So I'm picking up more wax this time. And I'm going to try and get them in certain areas. Not so much all over like the last one. Okay, and I had some bigger dots, but I kind of like that. And then we're going to go ahead and do the red orange. The more your brush is melted, the more wax you have into it. And just be careful, practice a little bit if you're not real comfortable with it. Okay. Now let's do this one more time. Now I like that so much better. I gotta get that last little green one melted. And I'm not gonna pick that up for a moment. That's how that is all kind of cooled and done layering, but I like that so much better than the first one we did. So just play with it. Everyone's gonna be different on the wax jewelry, so just know that. Okay. And see how cool that looks, and it's going to start to get dull here, and we'll brighten it back up by starting to put our varnish on top of it. But how you get that really neat dotted effect. So when this is cool, we're going to scrape our sides, and we're going to put on some of our Dimensional Magic, and this is Mod Podge, and this is a product that we do carry now. And it's a nice thick coat, and the gourds aren't usually flat, and I haven't been able to keep it all on, so we're going to brush this on instead of pouring it on. So we want these nice thick coats. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the wax off the sides. And don't put your finger in the middle till you know that that has cooled all the way. So just remove all that wax off the side. Another reason is we're not going to seal this, so you don't want any of that melting. And I got my finger into it over on this side. So I'm going to come back, we're going to just dot that, and I'm going to heat that back up. Smooth that back out. Just so that it's not standing out by itself. Let that dry. Now, when you're working with the Dimensional Magic, you do not want your gourd piece warm. You want to make sure that it's cooled off. It does affect the Mod Podge, so you want it cooled off, not warm at all. And we're going to apply that with our paintbrush, and it is water-based, so we can clean it out with our water. I'm going to get away from all this wax stuff here. And do not shake it, just pour it right on top. And you're going to see the color come back right away to this piece. Nice thick coats. The thicker coats also help the brush strokes from showing up, so you want to just kind of leave them nice and thick, and they'll just kind of even out on their own. And then rinse your brush. I do a minimum of 5 coats. You want to make sure that you've got the seal around your edge all nice and secure. Remember, this is wax. We want to make sure that it's done well enough that it's not going to melt if anybody is out in the sun, so I would also test it. And there is our beautiful Cosmos little gourd necklace piece. And remember, we've got the necklaces going, but all you have to do is do the smaller pieces to make the earrings. And you can finish the earrings up just like we finished the necklace part up, as well as the beaded kit. So have fun with that. Take this technique, try all the different ways that we used, and you're going to have all kinds of fun and come up with some things that are totally different. I'm going to show you the proper way to put the finish on this. I noticed just real quick when we were going back, the way I was showing you was leaving the brush strokes, and we don't want that, and we want to just go into a little bit more detail, the proper way to apply our Dimensional Magic. Dimensional Magic is made to be put on thick, so we want to put it on thicker than just a little bit of brushing on, and it's better to have too much than too little. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to start it on the outside. I'm going to put a layer, and then I'm going to put quite a bit in the middle. And actually, from what I found out, it is better to have too much than not enough. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to go along the outside edge, and I'm just going to lightly spread it out on top. And if it comes over the sides, just wipe that off. It's not a big deal. But what you'll notice is when I went to wipe, these ridges right here are going to disappear because it is thick enough for them to blend back together. And if it's not thick enough, you need to apply more of the Dimensional Magic, and that way it keeps us from getting the brush strokes. Now see, when I put them on more, you don't want to do that. You want to get it on and leave it. You don't want to overwork it. So less is actually better when it comes to putting or using the brush on it. Just wipe a couple times to get that all kind of spread out nice and even, and then you'll notice it start to kind of gel down, and that is how that you want to apply the Dimensional Magic. Just keep your sides clean, set that straight down, and let that continue to dry. Okay, now that we've finished decorating our jewelry piece and we have removed the wax off the sides with our hobby knife, and we put 5 coats of the Mod Podge on the Dimensional Magic, and it is dry, we're going to come in with our black acrylic paint and just paint the sides and the back all nice and neat. And if you get any of the paint up here, just wipe it off because you've already got your sealer on, so that'll just wipe off. Now make sure if you've used your Dimensional Magic, it's been 3 hours and that it's nice and dry. We don't want that wet and your fingerprints in there. And we're going to talk some more about different things that you can use other than what I am using. In this, I'm going to use the basic black suede strip, and the reason I use black in the backgrounds is it's a fade color, so the design and the piece stands out and the sides don't distract from your design or the front part. So that is a reason that I use the black. Now there's lots of other colors that you could use and decide that you would rather do instead of the black, like on the red flower. Paint the sides red and then put your red leather piece over that to bring out the red and the flower. That's fine. You have all kinds of things. This is some little silk pieces that I have found. You could put those around there. I've used some. I've turned them into a braid. You could put a braided piece around there to bring that out. It's all kinds of different stuff. I found some little tiny Hawaiian beads that I thought if you had the right piece, those would look fun. But you've got all kinds of thread and yarn and just different accents that you can use. Don't get stuck on just what I'm showing you today. I always tell you to think outside the box. Well, think outside the gourd piece here. I have some silver wire that you could use, as well as some stained glass siding that's sticky that you could put on the sides. So there's all kinds of things that you could do with it. One of my favorites for this piece was a braided suede piece around that, and how neat that makes that look. But like I said, we're going to stick with the black basic for now because it helps the pattern stand out in the background. And if you've done the beading video, there is one thing that we're going to do different, and we're going to move the suede piece towards the front so it's flush with the front of our piece. So we have painted in black. It's nice and dry. I'm going to put a tad of tacky glue on to start it. And on this one, I'm going to decide where my top of my gourd piece is going to be, and I'm going to start and finish there. And that is so I can also get my eye screw in between those two pieces. Now I'm going to set it down flush. I'm going to use an awl, and I'm going to stick that awl right in the middle of that piece on the end. And with the awl, you want it to go about 1/4 of an inch down, because the sequin pins that we're going to be using are 1/2 inch. Throw a couple of those out there. And if you do it right, you should only need 2 of these. And some gourd pieces are tougher than others, and some are softer. And this guy is going to be a booger. He is nice and hard. Let's see. And I leave my finger right there, so hopefully I can kind of have an idea where that hole is, and I can sink my nail into that hole without it being too hard. And I'm going to try moving him just a tad here, because he is not playing with me today. There we go. And I have tried all different ways to do this with the hammer and all kinds of things, and the awl is the easiest way. You only want to put it halfway down so your sequin can push in halfway so it holds nice and secure. You don't want to push it all the way, otherwise your sequin won't have anything to push into. Now, instead of hammering or anything, I found it was just easier to push the pin straight in, and if it bends, take your pliers and pull it out. You don't want to go any further. And you want to make sure that this pin is not going towards the front. You don't want it to go through your design. You'd rather it go down or towards the back. If it comes through anywhere, you'd rather it came through the back. We're going to try one more time. Nice and slow, just pushing that straight in. This is a hard gourd. And it's kind of nice so you know that it happens to me as well. So we're going to leave this one in here. Try one more time with my awl. Push that straight down. Don't let it go to the side. The thimble is important. It's a non-slip thimble so that you cannot slip around, and that really helps out. Okay, so we finally got that guy in there. And I like to leave that in there because if I have problems, you're going to have problems once in a while. And we don't want to have this too messy. We don't want it on top of our leather because we're not covering up our leather. Our leather is our final piece. We'll bring that all the way around. And when I lay my tacky glue down, I always have it on the side instead of straight up and down, so I don't have to shake it and get that air bubble out before I grab it. So we're just going to put this on, and we wanted it flush with the front, so I'm just kind of moving that around. And we're going to bump up right up next to this. We're going to put, you're not going over the top of it, but you're going right next to where we did the first one. And we're going to see if this guy will go in a little bit easier. Push him in nice and slow, straight up and down. This one's been a booger. And if he bends, we know we're going to pull. I'm going to grab my pliers here. And pull this guy out. And that's why we put extra pins in your kit. And usually I do not have this hard of a time. This is just a tougher piece, just like you have soft gourds and hard gourds. It's the same thing with this. I'm going to try to put the hole in again a little bit further down. But like I said, it's a good thing to do these on these videos, because then you know when you do it, you're not thinking how easy it was. And usually it goes in much easier. I usually do not have this hard of a time at all. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim this off. You still want the two pieces kind of meeting right there. Okay. And remove any of this glue from the front. You do not want any of this showing. Kind of make sure it's on the edge. And what this does is just frames your piece that much nicer. Now, where these two pieces touched, I'm actually going to come in between those two and I'll punch another hole. And actually, I'm not going to punch this one because it's thicker right behind it. But if it's not thicker, it's thinner, just put it right down the middle of your piece right there. Because when you go to turn it, your pieces are broken right there, so you're not turning them as much. So we're going to put our awl in there again. And we're going to twist on our screw eye. This is the smallest ones you can find. I think this is like a 7/16. It'll be in your kits. So now we have that on. And I drop my necklace. And we're going to put our jump ring on. And I'm going to open the jump ring up. I'm going to put it through the necklace. Decide which way your clasp goes on your necklace so that you have that the right direction. And then put your pendant part on. And then you're going to squeeze it shut. And you want no space between that. Now, it's a bigger... You don't have to worry about exactly, but you never want, when you're working with jump rings, you never want them coming off, so you want to make sure they're nice and tight. So we want those meeting. And you can also squish them on there too, so that you know that they're nice and tight and right where they meet. And then we have our necklace. Now, if you notice, the screw eye is facing this direction so that your jump ring is facing this direction. Now, if you have any glue or stuff on the back like this, go back over and paint that up and touch that up with your black acrylic paint. And you can also add part of a back on there. You can cut out the size of your circle and put a piece of material or leather on there, just so that it's a little bit smoother on your necklace. If your skin, if you happen to be wearing it above your clothing. And if you like the piece with the beading on, we also have the beading technique, and that is on the Miriam Joy website, and that just really makes all of your stuff stand out. And there is a great video on how to do that step by step. And so we're just adding all kinds of dimension to your jewelry, and it's amazing just what Crayola crayon can do and how fantastic it looks. Nobody's going to believe that these are actually crayons. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please know that you can play the video into YouTube again and again. You're not limited to one time, and that there also are kits for each one of these. Hopefully, if you don't see anything up online, email me at art@miriamjoy.com, or if you have any questions. And for any of the other projects, just visit my website at miriamjoy.com. Thank you. God bless and have fun.